welcome to this video, me continuing the painting of the face we did during the live session and taking it through the various stages to get to where we'll end up and begin the next session. So here we go. Hi folks, back again with a extension of the live stream I did last night with a few of you guys, painting the figure I primed last time and painting the face, which was tricky while trying to do it live. So I've taken some photographs of it which I'll put online. I might even have been part of the original starting point of this. So in many ways this is assessing what I like and what I don't like about what I managed to do last night, and correcting it and changing it and adding detail. So hopefully the focusing can behave itself. There's a lot going on in the background with the palette and stuff. So I'm going to zoom in on this guy temporarily. And we can see, if I look at this now, so this was what was done last night. So attempting to show, see if I can get the light behaving itself a bit better. Yeah, the eyes are a bit big. It lacks sharpness and refinement, so I'm going to want to correct the eyes. Now there's bits I want to add better highlights in areas. I'm going to start off trying to deal with it, just correcting the eyes. So probably try and take more flesh tone on the lower lid and maybe a darker colour just to help on the top. I might even, don't really want to start again because that takes away with what we did yesterday, but we shall see. So bear with me, let's see how we go. And, okay. See what paint is still usable from last night, from the wet palette. So, oh dear, got some stuff mixed in. Need some more of the base brown sand. So one of the problems I'm finding as I learn is trying to paint with trying to keep things in the camera and zoomed in, which gives you a very small window to paint. Is yeah, it can go wrong quite quickly, and I couldn't get my comfortable distance I'm used to when I'm painting. So hopefully I'll do better now. Now I've got a better grasp of the depth of field. I don't think I really had last night. Now it could be that this correction means that I end up redoing the eyes totally, but there's an area on the lower eye which is actually the bag of the lower eye, So what I've managed to do there is add a little bit of a base flesh tone on that lower part of the eye, and this eye on this side already looks more natural because I've reduced the amount of white under there. So I'm just using the base flesh tone, slightly diluted, not as thin as I was doing. This is, yeah, I'm wanting this to cover. So you can see this eye here, probably still issues on the other one. But that's already a much more natural looking eye, and there's area in there to start adding a bit of shadow in the bag area, the bulging bag under the eye. So I'm going to take a little bit of the black red that I was using as part of my shadow tone, and this is quite dilute. And just on this one side, just to illustrate. A little bit of a shadowy red tone under that eye now actually gives them a little bit more character. Okay, I'm going to pause there as I try to work out what to do with the other eye. But that's definitely helped that eye has improved quite a bit. And for those of you who were watching last night, you'll see that recording it on the camera here is, the colours are different to when it's got a different saturation on the iPhone, or on the Zoom session. So yeah, that's definitely progress there at this point. That other eye is proving a little bit trickier, but it's always the eye I have most difficulty with. There'll always be one that you're happier with, but there's not much white left looking at from that eye. So yeah, progress. Shall hopefully have a little bit more later. I'm going to have a cuppa. Let's zoom out again. The camera's working in a good position there. Take care. Right, I have done a little bit more work on the eyes. Still not happy with the one on this side, but for now it's going to have to do. I'm now going to do some refining of shadows and highlights. So I'm going to be using a thin dark colour added to my base tone. So I've got, in this case it's another red brown colour, this one more on the brown side, cadmium maroon. little bit of, it's not quite so red as the red black one. This is got a more brown tint, which I prefer. So I'm going to add that to my base flesh tone and thin it with water quite a bit. And just check the translucency on the card. Now I'm just going to start. Add a little bit more. Of a darker colour to make more of a shadow tone. Now I can add that. To the temples a bit more. Down the side by the ear. Okay. And this is still pretty thin. I have to remember this camera setup because I can actually see what I'm doing, and it looks like the camera can see it as well. So I'm now going to try and add some of that shadow more into the area around his eyes. Certainly where the helmet meets the head. I'm going to want to make that even darker now. Because now I'm going to want to try to use this too. I might mix, if I can get some more of that out. Cue shaking bottle sound. Yes, I'm shaking the bottle. There you go, that's what I'm doing, those sounds. Nothing more than that. So now I'm going to be trying very carefully to get this into the darkest shadow recesses if I can. So around the back of the ear. So I don't, this is still quite dilute paint, so still probably more than 50% water. And the end of my brush now, just a little bit good. So just the tip of the brush. And the area either side of his nose between the eyes. And I like to try and do just a little line under the eye. It's going to be hard to do on camera. Maybe a little bit too much in that. That can always be corrected. So one of the great things with acrylics is you can always go back to your base colour. Now I'm going to take some of my highlight colour, which was the base colour plus sunny skin tone plus a bit of white. This is going to be very, very thin. Ludicrously thin. I'm probably going to do some excessive OTT over the top highlights in a couple of places, so the uppermost area of the cheek. And that brush, I'm going to change brushes. That one, I do need to buy some new brushes. Winsor & Newton, if you're watching. Series 7, please. So yeah. So under the cheeks, right on the top there. And a line that comes out from you'll see that all those kind of highlights are towards the front of the face, so all the main lighting in that area. Sorry, I lost that on camera a bit. No, it's a little bit dry on my brush. Don't worry about that. A little bit more paint. Now as I look at this, I've probably gone a bit over the top in the paleness in some areas, but the beauty of acrylics is that's quite easy to tone down by, again, as we've done already, as I showed you live last night, taking the base colour, keeping it thin, and either glazing over the whole thing if you want to take it a long way back, or just around the margins of where you put that highlight where you think it's a little bit stark. And do that with just little touches of the brush. And as I do this, just thinking out loud, what I'm going to do, I'm going to have a pause, and I'm going to take some photos of this at this stage, and when I edit the video, I shall incorporate those photos, because I've already taken some photos prior to this, and hopefully you'll be able to see what this looks like in a bit better detail than what the camera is looking at. But it's looking a little bit better than it was when I started. So we'll leave that here. I'll take some photos and continue after that. Cheers. So I have done a little bit more refining of the highlights and just tidied some bits up. So now I'm going to add some more character to our sergeant, and that will be to add a 5 o'clock shadow effect. If you Google 5 o'clock shadow, you'll see that depending on growth, it can be very dark, it can cover large areas, it can cover small areas. Depending on the age of our figure, it could be quite thick or quite dark, although age is only relevant to an extent. It's just genetics as well, how much beard growth and coverage. You'll often find that there's almost a stylized way of doing 5 o'clock shadow, which would be all on the lower chin, upper lip, but in reality when you look, it's more interesting to make a 5 o'clock shadow quite sparse, and if a guy is still quite young, it won't be necessarily as covering as much of the face as you might find elsewhere. So to do that, I'm going to use some any dark colour would do. You could even use black or a blue colour. I'm happening to use extra dark green from AK, not necessarily critical. I've got some on the palette here, and just going to mix some with a little bit of flesh, the base colour, and I want this to be very dilute, very thin, proper very thin. I can't really sort of say, almost imperceptible. It's better to put this on and not see it and add another layer than it is to overkill. And I'm going to try and keep this as sparse as possible, so let's see. So I'm going to do some on the temples, going down on the underside of the cheek. I'm going to do some in the middle lower part of the chin, just to make sure. I think more important than anything is to keep this symmetrical. It may be that you want to see more of the effect, and so you can add a bit more of the dark green. Or you can just be very patient. But for this effect, yes, you definitely want to try and keep things symmetrical. As if there's one thing that's very pronounced. Consider your own. I'm going to add a little bit more. I just want a little bit more coverage. I always consider this kind of thing a special effect, as it were. You're not wanting to, or you're just trying to add character to the face now, as opposed to painting those forms and shapes of cheekbones and whatnot. Definitely check reference photos, or even your own face, depending on how shaved you are. If you're clean shaven, it might not be relevant. You might even object to your figure having any stubble at all. You might feel that it's not a thing that would happen in the field. But then again, you get some people who will get a bit of stubble within a blink of an eye, and some who won't get any even after a couple of days, because everyone's different. And that's, so every face you paint can be different. Now, I'm going to try and do the upper lip, or the area above the upper lip. Now, you don't want to overdo that. That can often look odd. It may be that you want to go back. I find that when you look at pictures of a face that's got partially shaven or slightly unshaven upper lip, there'll still be a highlight, because the hair doesn't grow all the way to the lip itself, and so you might have a bit of a highlight line still sitting there. Don't forget as well, you can probably say you could add more of a 5 o'clock shadow effect into the actual physical shadow you've put under the chin. Let's see that with a bit of a zoom. So that's, I think I'm going to probably say that's enough now. I've kept it subtle. And on the and on the lower portions mostly. And I think I'm just going to try and get some of the highlight on the upper lip back. Which will be just a little bit of a I'm going to come at this from a low angle. don't even know if I'm going to be able to do this because I think I'm still zoomed in. I think that's probably fine, to be honest with you. I'm going mad. But that is adding a bit of 5 o'clock shadow and character that it gives him of a exhausted looking soldier with the light catching his face. There you go. I guess you could argue, I mean, I might still do an eyebrow or two, which is just carefully painting some lines on his face without going too mad. A lot of the time, you could argue it's not necessary to have his helmet, but yes, that's where we're at. So, I've taken this guy as far as I am for now, and we'll work on other parts later or on the next live session. But I'm just going to zoom in now and now, first thing to say is the camera on the phone kind of is doing some interpolation on the colours. It's a little bit less stark than this in real life, but I think I'm happy with how he's looking. I managed to reduce, if you remember the beginning of the video, I've managed to reduce the size of the eyes. The bags under his eyes now look like bags under his eyes. He's got the highlights on the upper portion of the face, on his bridge of his nose. Oh, losing it. He's got his 5 o'clock shadow that I just did. I've gone back in with some black paint, just tidied up the shirt around his neck. Can we see that? I've given him a bit, oh, can't quite get that, there you go. Bit of a hairline, oh, come on, around the back of his head. Kept some of the highlight on his upper lip, and there's a little bit of a catch light on his lower lip. I also, I think you can just about see it here, I used some red, black and some scarlet red added together and really, really very, very thin, just gave a glaze over the nose and into the inner portions of his nostrils. If you look at a face, you'll see little things like that, little changes in pigment or rosiness, ruddiness. And what I shall do now is stick him in front of the camera and get some decent photos and hopefully edit it into this. So there you go, that's the face. Hope you enjoyed it and hope you're still learning. Okay.